Dwayne Burge of The Hollywood Reporter called this movie a hard-charged, perfectly detonated actioner that should especially delight especially macho mainstreamers. San Francisco Chronicle critic Mick LaSalle wrote, "With a movie like this, we know what has to happen. The fun is in seeing how it happens." And Jeffrey Anderson of Combustible Celluloid hailed its sequel as a well-paced, dumb, fun movie. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Under Siege.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters!
Dan, watch out. There's somebody in your kitchen, and they're gonna kick your ass with Aikido.
I know, because she has been taking her class every Tuesday, and I let her practice on me. And she has, this is my daughter, Chloe, we're talking about, who has taken martial arts and has, I have, to use a pro wrestling term, sold for her many a time in our kitchen. She is, in fact, our own
Is she learning Aikido at all?
Little Chloe Ryback.
Oh, boy.
Is she learning Aikido? No. Actually, she's not learning
Aikido these days.
No one that I know. They're not doing anything anymore because she doesn't have any. They're not doing any indoor exercise.
Sure.
Classes,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's funny
We
to
are
think
under
about
the siege of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's funny to think about because Steven Seagal, before he was in movies, was doing all these like Aikido demonstrations. I think he was on like the Merv Griffin show or something, and they all were about like how he just uses his baby finger, as he says, not like pinky finger or little finger, my baby finger to thwart attacks. So it's like he can push somebody away using only his baby finger. And I'm just thinking of Chloe's little 6-year-old tiny finger. It's not even that. It's just like people pushing themselves against his finger and him making them fall over. It's really dumb looking.
As he comes for me, I don't use strength. I don't need strength. It's just my energy is going down. Okay, seguran. He finds it real hard to get up because of my energy, not because I'm pressing on him. If I try to use strength to overcome him, it becomes very difficult. In other words, if I tell him I'm going to take my baby finger, which is very small compared to his body, and I say, I want you to break it. If I use strength, match my strength against his, naturally it hurts because his body's so much stronger than my finger. But if I say, push me over or break my finger, this is my baby finger. And Merv, come on up behind him and just push on him. we're not gonna hurt you, you're not gonna have to fall down. I'm not your nephew. I just want you to push. You see?
Oh, sorry about that.
What I'm doing is just using my energy. My energy is going out.
You know, it came up, his name also came up, Steven Seagal's name, but recently, because we're talking about Under Siege today. Why not?
Yes,
it's Ruined Childhoods.
On the Ruined Childhoods podcast. I'm John, that's Dan. We're talking about movies and imagining a future for them.
Absolutely. And
Under
imagining
Siege.
the best possible future, the best possible timeline for the fate of that movie. So
but
we're
first we're going to
Siege.
celebrate it. But before we really get into Under Siege and Steven Seagal, and I realized that I cut you off mid-sentence. You were about to talk about Steven Seagal a little bit. But I do have one more thing for the Fisher King, which was that our last episode?
It sure was.
It feels like it was even longer ago. But we didn't really talk about Amanda Plummer. I feel like we completely glossed over Amanda Plummer, who was excellent as
How did
Lydia.
we do that? Wasn't she also nominated for an Academy Award that year for The Fisher King?
I don't remember. I don't know. But
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, but she's fantastic. And the one there are two other movies that I like really know her from, one being Pulp Fiction and the other one being So I Married an Axe Murderer, in which she is also perfect for the part. And I had no idea that she was Christopher Plummer's daughter.
Oh yeah.
I don't know like how that information just like never entered my world, but I started like doing some reading on her and I was like, what? How did I miss that?
I was thinking about it. It came up the other day. I guess I was thinking about Christopher Plummer because he's in so many great movies. And in fact, there's that Terry Gilliam connection of Christopher Plummer being in 12 Monkeys.
Right.
Yeah. So, which
Gilliam loves
extra.
the Plummer family.
Yeah. Hey, I got you a Gilliam. You got me a Plummer. Let's go.
And also
right.
Amanda Plummer, she has been very active. She was recently in the Nurse Ratched series. And she's been very, very active. I think she's won some Tonys. She does a lot of work in theater. So hats off to Amanda Plummer. You were a wonderful Lydia. According to Terry Gilliam's director's commentary on the Criterion Blu-ray for The Fisher King, he had somebody else in mind like this entire time and was kind of set on it. And then Amanda Plummer like sent a tape in or something, and he was about to like make the decision for this other person, but then he just decided, you know what? Why don't I give this one a watch? And he watched her audition and was completely blown away. And like, I think there was some sort of like secretary or something that was there, and he asked her opinion and she was like, that's the perfect person for the part. And
that's our Lydia.
That's our Lydia.
She is. Yeah. And Gilliam, you know, like as shitty as he came across and comes across,
right?
He is very complimentary of her work.
Absolutely,
of course.
Yes.
I mean, of course he is. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
But so actually, and I forgot she was in the second Hunger Games film, Catching
That's right.
Fire.
Was it that was the second one that she was in? Yeah, she was the past winner from years
one of
prior.
The past. Yeah.
Whichever. Yeah.
She was really, I remember she was thinking she was a really great casting choice for that. But of course, like Pulp Fiction, how many times, if you are of like this generation, not just the movie, but the soundtrack that opens with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, like how well do we all know, like, you know, any of your fingerprints bear in a row? It's so good.
And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you.
So good.
Yeah,
I love it.
She's
pretty
perfect.
Smart. She's so, I mean, like, not to go on a Pulp Fiction tangent, but man, like.
So last week we were talking about the problematic past of Terry Gilliam and the issues that we have with him, and we are going into a Steven Seagal episode, somebody who's very problematic.
Steven Seagal's beyond the... And I actually had a little, like a mini one more thing, like a more thing, just from Fargo, because we had talked about some of the William H. Macy performances pre-Fargo. And it just kind of came to me the other day, like I was in the middle of doing something totally unrelated. And there's William H. Macy was like the assistant principal in Mr. Holland's Opus or something. And
was he?
Yeah.
What year was Mr. Holland's Opus?
95.
Oh, okay. So right
celebrating
before.
its 25th anniversary this year.
Fargo was 96, is that right?
Yeah, I got to tell you though, I was thinking about Mr. Holland's Opus, and I was thinking about the character of Mr. Holland, and what a dick. I was just thinking
it's been a long time since I've seen it.
It is, but you know, I mean, part of it is just like I was thinking about characterization and like what are the things about this character? Well, let's see. He kind of wants to fuck a high school student at one point. He is totally insensitive about his deaf son.
Before you go too much further, and yes, agree, terrible. For the next several episodes, you know, right now this is episode 92. We are talking about a movie from 1992. The last episode was episode 91. We talked about a movie from 1991. So we're going from year to year, talking about movies from the subsequent years. So if we've got 95 coming up, Mr. Holland's Opus may come up.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't necessarily know that Mr. Holland's Opus. Look, I enjoyed the movie at the time.
Decisions haven't been made.
There's some great work in it, but like this, I remember thinking like, oh yeah, William H. Macy's character was kind of a dick in that, and I was like, well, so was Mr. Holland. Like, fuck his Opus, he sucks.
Right? Yeah, yeah, totally.
Anyway. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, we'll keep 1995 in 1995 right now. We'll stick to 1992. And this was early 92.
When did this one come out?
I want to say March 92. We should know these things.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. I remember it was spring. It was like
it was October.
92.
It was October 9th, 92.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page.
Wow.
And then Under Siege 2 Dark Territory was July 14th, 95.
Yeah. Oh, that's strange, though. I swear I remember it being like a late spring. Yeah, no, sure enough.
Did you see an advanced screening of it? Like a way advanced screening of it?
No. I mean, I guess maybe I'm thinking about, because I didn't see it in the theater, and I guess I rented it when it came out on VHS, which must have been in spring 93. I don't know. That's weird. Maybe. I remember it. But you know what? We're talking about, not everything I remember is crystal clear.
So before we really dive into Under Siege, we talked about how Steven Seagal is a very problematic person. I just want to address this first. Bad man. Bad man. He is known for three things. Being notoriously the worst host of Saturday Night Live in history, being a sleazeball sexual predator, and Under Siege, pretty much. Like, he definitely had a run up in his career leading up to this, but this was like the peak of his career in films, and dude is still making them, but shouldn't be.
Is he making them in Russia?
I'm sorry. There's two more things that he's known for. The Dalai Lama named him a deity, and he's BFFs with Putin.
Yeah, like at one point
That's the top five things that he's known for.
At one point, like during these last 4 years, this like chaotic, like Robert Altman on crack menagerie of events. I feel like Steven Seagal at one point was like a liaison between Trump and Putin, and I was just like, well, we are like that's where we are. Yeah. In 2018, he was appointed Russia's special envoy to the United States.
It's crazy. It's absolutely wrong, and I don't like it.
No, he is but on the other hand, he's also done things like for the environment and right. Animal rights. But
he was named like PETA's like person of the year, like some accolade from them.
Yeah, but it's like, I think for Steven Seagal, the bad definitely outweighs the good.
Oh yeah.
And he is also, to me, like my least favorite of, I think about the four big action heroes, the four big 80s, 90s action heroes. And I feel like the way I look at it, it's,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, no, I think of, all right, so top tier is like Stallone and Schwarzenegger. And then the next tier is kind of like Seagal. Seagal was almost like the second tier Stallone, and Van Damme was the second tier Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm.
And Seagal for me was always a distant fourth. By the way, I don't include other actors like Wesley Snipes, because Wesley Snipes did not only do action movies. Wesley Snipes, his career has been all over the place. Comedies like White Men Can't Jump, dramas like Jungle Fever. So
you're just talking pure action star.
I'm talking like, that's what I know. Stallone and Schwarzenegger have done in the
Jingle
JCVD
All the Way.
Yeah.
Stop or Mom Will Shoot. Come on.
Of course. All classics. But known as action heroes, Seagal was never one that I didn't necessarily gravitate towards his movies. I found them very
I don't
dull.
understand the appeal of Seagal as an action star. He's very soft spoken, and he doesn't say much, probably because if he was given more than 3 lines in a row, it would completely ruin the illusion that he is a character.
I love his little accent in Under Siege.
Oh, his little Cajun accent that he loses after like a minute.
Y'all ever hear about the joke when Andre and Boudreaux went hunting down on the bayou? Where the guns? Where the guns, Juliet?
That's about right.
Yeah, it's like half Cajun, half like Atlanta.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's weird. But so I just want to give like a little bit of Steven Seagal background because this is the first. This is the first time we're talking about him. He was the only American Aikido trainer, like had his own dojo, if that's what it's called for Aikido, in Japan. And he did all these like TV appearances, and then he became like the personal Aikido trainer too. And I'm blanking on his name, but like some movie executive, I think, who was with like Disney at one point. And he basically decided, I'm going to make this guy, who at this point was like 40, maybe. It's like, I'm going to make this guy an action star. I'm going to put him in movies. And that's, was it Above the Law, Out for Justice, whichever one was the first one?
Above the Law, which Andrew Davis also directed.
Yeah, directed by Andrew Davis, who directed the second Under Siege movie, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the first one.
Oh, is it the first one?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The second one was the like New Zealand, I forget what his name is. I should look that up real quick.
Yeah. But no.
Jeff Murphy. That's right.
I'm looking at his career, and he also was, I think he was the martial arts trainer on Never Say Never Again, was it? Yeah. Where he like broke Sean Connery's hand or something?
He did some like stunt choreography and other types of stunt coordination on, I think, a few Bond movies in that era. And then he did Above the Law, and it kind of just like, I don't know, they gave him this movie that I think was probably pretty cheap to make. I'm sure it made its money back enough that they were like, let's give him another one. And up until the point where it was like, all right, Under Siege, this is the one. And clearly there was a lot that was put into it. You had Tommy Lee Jones, who was, I mean, kind of on fire at the time. It was pre-Fugitive, but
post JFK, he was an Academy Award nominee that year.
Right, but I think that when they filmed it, he hadn't yet been nominated.
No.
Yeah,
but he would have already made JFK, and
right.
I mean, it was the same producers.
Actor, yeah.
So,
I mean,
he had made lots of movies before.
Lots of movies, and then you have Gary Busey, who's super hot at the time, and crazy. I mean, if you're looking for that kind of guy.
Well, I mean, Point Break.
Sure. Yeah.
He had done that the year before.
But he was cast in real movies. He wasn't like,
well, this was kind of like, like Lethal Weapon. He had kind of a similar type of role. Yeah, Gary Busey also has an Academy Award nomination, to his name for what it's worth for the Buddy Holly story.
That's right.
And John, I'm sorry, I just wanted to also, while we're talking about some Seagal background, have you ever seen any episodes of the series Steven Seagal Lawman?
Never.
I think I watched it once.
Yeah?
I think I watched the first episode. Yeah.
Was it uncomfortable?
No, it just was. It was just kind of there. It was just kind of happening. And it was just kind of like, okay, so this is just, and look, it probably would be a lot more uncomfortable now, like in the hindsight of like really understanding the motivations behind shows like that, and like Cops and things like that, and especially in like, I think Louisiana. Well,
I think that was also the time of like Dog the Bounty Hunter, and where there was this thirst for these justice shows, these like real life justice. Yeah.
But also, wow. So he also has his name on an energy drink that was once discontinued. And let's not forget his musical career.
Right. He released 2 albums, I believe.
Let's see. He's got
I know he also wrote and recorded the song that plays at the very end of Under Siege 2, Dark Territory.
Nice. Yeah, he does have 2 albums out, Songs from the Crystal Cave, which actually, like everybody else on this album sounds, it's like Tony Rebel, Lady Saw, Stevie Wonder are all on it with him. I'm like, I'm interested in this album except for Steven Seagal.
I would watch a movie about the making of that album because I'm sure it's bananas.
Yeah, but only if it was like it would. I would trust like James Franco and Seth Rogen to do it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, but yeah. So Steven Seagal, has done quite a lot. And but just generally,
and I do not want to fat shame anybody, but Steven Seagal has been increasing in mass throughout his entire career, even between Under Siege and Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. And now it's at the point where his movies involve him mostly sitting down and doing nothing, like maybe aiming a gun at somebody.
He kind of looks like when Cartman disguises himself as a grown-up and draws a beard on his face and darkens his hair.
Yeah, it's sad. What he's been doing with his hair and his beard are sad because.
But I mean, he's got to
be pushing 70, and he's got jet black hair and this bushy jet black goatee. It's bizarre.
Yeah, but that's
in his early in Above the Law, he's balding and it looked good because he looked like a real person, but he had his signature ponytail at the time.
But even one of the reviews I read of Under Siege was commenting about how it looked like he was licking one too many cake pans.
He's more of an inaction hero. He just kind of walks from one place to another and gets into very close, one-on-one fights where he maybe stabs somebody or impales them with some sort of beam. But there's never any far away shots of him doing any type of martial arts. It's always very close up, sped up. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
But why don't I get into a little synopsis of Under Siege before we...
Yeah,
just completely.
Yeah.
In reverse chronological order, the USS Missouri served in the Gulf War, the Korean War, and most notably was pivotal in ending World War II. But as the ship is set to be decommissioned just after the Gulf War, a group of mercenaries plan to sell the ship's Tomahawk missiles, some of which contain nuclear warheads, by unloading them onto a stolen North Korean submarine. But the mercenaries, led by Bill Stranix, formerly of the CIA, with help from the ship's Benedict Arnold, Commander Krill, don't expect the ship's head chef has the chops to save the day. It turns out that Chef Casey Ryback was a Navy SEAL and is finishing out his tenure as the Missouri's cook. Ryback, with the help of Jordan Tate, a Playboy playmate on board the ship to help celebrate the captain's birthday, manages to figure out the plan and pose obstacles for the mercenaries at every turn. Ryback, Tate, and a small group of crew members are able to take over the controls and eliminate the stolen submarine, on which Krill is attempting to escape. Stranix and Ryback end up in a close-quarters knife fight, resulting in Stranix getting a knife through the top of his skull, but not before he launches a nuclear-tipped tomahawk directly towards Honolulu. Ryback is able to quickly disable the missile just before it reaches land. History is made once again aboard the USS Missouri. So... Steven Seagal is Ryback, Tommy Lee Jones is Stranix, Gary Busey is Commander Krill, Erica Eleniak is Jordan Tate. Am I saying her name right? Eleniak? Cole Meany is one of the mercenaries. It's a great cast. There's a lot of really solid people in here. Raymond Cruz, who people might remember from Breaking Bad. He's Tuco. He's in this very, very young, but once you realize it, you're like, oh yeah, that's Tuco Salamanca. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I have to say, I love Tommy Lee Jones in this movie. He is a Tommy Lee Jones that you're not used to really seeing so much. He's got this energy to him. He's got long hair, this tie-dyed shirt, this leather jacket.
He's very much like this he is literally revolutionary. He describes it. And he is this rock and roll, but he's so gone. One thing that I love about this character, I think there's a little bit in the script, but I really think Tommy Lee Jones,
sure,
what he brings to this character is the understanding. And I think I picked up on this more on this most recent viewing than previous viewings, but he brings that sense of like, all right, so this isn't just a guy who got like used and then thrown out or attempted to be thrown out.
Right.
This was a guy who got into it already a little bit off, like, because he goes like this, he spends his whole military career doing these like covert operations and these like black ops. And you have to think about the mind frame of somebody who's really, really good at that and how to be really, really, really good at that, you've got to be a little fucked in the head.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is somebody who has been screwed over by his government for his entire career. And this is where he is. This is
well, so they try to kill him.
Absolutely. This makes a lot of sense to me. And he is one of those action movie villains who I kind of like feel bad for. And I mean, what he is trying to do is, you know, it's gross and wrong, but like you can't fully get super mad at him for wanting to do it.
He's a less sympathetic version of well, and this movie came later, but Ed Harris in The Rock, who I think who like the motivations are much less. And I think what makes me more sympathetic towards that character, while I love Tommy Lee Jones in this, is the nature of the character and the fact that you think like, you know, oh, so this was one of those guys who was able to put some really messed up skills to, you know.
Can I just mention one quick thing about Ed Harris's character in The Rock? Mm-hmm. So at spoiler, he dies at the end. And at his military funeral, next to his gravesite is his deceased wife's grave. And Dan, do you know what it says on her headstone? Next to like Ed Harris's, which says like Captain whatever. Do you know what her headstone says? His wife. His wife. It says his wife. His wife.
Yeah. Just his wife.
His wife. It just says his wife. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have anything. It just says his wife. How awful is that?
It's a woman's tombstone in a Michael Bay movie. What more do you ask?
No kidding. That is a perfect example of what it means to be a dead woman in a Michael Bay movie. So,
wow.
So this movie, there's so much going on. And also just to speak about Stranix and his ability to pull off such a crazy thing. So like we said, this is taking place during like the time where the ship is being decommissioned. You see George Bush at the beginning. It's this whole thing about how the ship is being decommissioned. So it's explained why there's very few people on board the ship where there should be thousands, and also how people are able to get on board because Commander Krill, Gary Busey's character, as being somebody on the inside, has arranged allegedly for food to be brought in for this birthday party for the ship's captain to be brought in from Hawaii. And the chopper, I think the thing is that they snuck on board the helicopter because that's the same one that Jordan Tate is on. So there's people brought over for legit reasons, and then
no, they're all Jordan Tate is they book Jordan Tate.
Oh, I know that. Which is bizarre to me because it's like he knows that there's going to be this takeover going on.
Well, I mean, it goes to show like being a Playboy playmate of not even a year, just of like a month,
right?
Doesn't score you the top agents at sea. Michael Ovitz is not representing her in negotiations. Yeah, I'm going out on a limb. I'm pretty sure that's the name of someone who was once a very powerful agent, perhaps still is.
I want to say that Michael Ovitz is the
head of the CIA?
Michael Ovitz was the guy who hired Steven Seagal to be his personal... Yeah.
What?
He is the guy who got Steven Seagal into movies.
I didn't know that. I was just trying to think of like...
I'm looking at an article from... I'm looking at an article from 1988. Steven Seagal gets a shot at stardom. And it's all about how... Okay... Seagal has an enthusiastic film studio booster, a mega-potent Hollywood agent pal, Michael Ovitz, and a high-profile public relations firm to go along with a model starlet wife, Kelly LeBrock. So yeah, it's Michael Ovitz. That's so crazy that you brought him up.
Insane. Well, no, I was like early 90s big name agent, and Michael Ovitz, yes, co-founded Creative Artists Agency and was its chairman until 1995. So I went out on a limb there, but damn it.
Dan,
all right. I'm gonna
bonkers.
I'm gonna pat myself on the back here.
So, and also in 2017, there's an article at trial. Michael Ovitz intends to blame Steven Seagal for threatening journalist. Oh my. Bad dudes.
Bad dude. That's why it's called Bad Dudes. They're bad dudes.
That's why it's called Bad Dudes.
So Under Siege. Yeah. So she's on the. You know what else is crazy about that? They shipped out from Hawaii.
Right. That's true.
They were at Pearl Harbor. Why didn't they
need to chopper that in?
How about just like, hey, like you're getting paid for this gig. We're shipping out at 3 p.m. Be on board.
So I just want to also talk a little bit. I mean, while we're talking about things that like don't make a ton of sense. So Krill, who really hates Ryback, instead of like finding a way to kick him off the ship, he locks him in a meat locker with just like a very low level military police guy, like standing in front of the door. Kind of a dummy if you were to really think about it. And it's like, does he not know that he has this background? Because like he's the commander of the ship. How does he not know who this guy is? That he was like on SEAL Team 4 or whatever.
Because it's in the captain's like personal files.
That's right.
Which they don't get into until the captain is dead.
That's right.
I also I finished watching this again like last night.
True.
It is very
Stranix,
fresh.
I remember said like, how did you not know? And he was like, it was in, that's right. You're totally right. It was in the captain's thing that I just got access to.
Yeah. A lot of ins and outs, a lot of
what
twists.
have yous.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonder the screenplay wasn't nominated. By the way, did you know that the screenplay for Under Siege was written by the same writer who wrote Pretty Woman?
Is that true?
It is true. J.F. Lawton. Very, also the
very
writer
interesting.
Of Chain Reaction, which I believe was another Andrew Davis film starring Keanu Reeves.
Sounds about right.
Freeman. And I mean, he wrote other things, but yeah, Pretty Woman.
Huh. Okay. So another thing that I wanted to mention is allegedly it was Steven Seagal's idea, and he is credited as, I think, a co-writer, to have the Playboy Playmate sidekick. And as like, I know that he wanted to do that for probably very sleazy reasons, but having somebody for him to explain things to is the only way that a movie like this can work. Because if you just have Steven Seagal muttering one-liners to himself or like thinking out loud.
Yeah, he doesn't even do one-liners.
I know he does them in the second one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Oh my God. The guy cannot deliver a line.
Have you ever heard or seen the Will Sasso Steven Seagal vines?
Oh, I think I have seen some of those.
I have to say that the Will Sasso Steven Seagal impression is fantastic, and it will give me a laugh anytime I need. When he does Steven Seagal listing his top 5 Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
it's great, and it's spot on.
Do-si-dos, Thin Mints, Tagalongs, Samoas. And
so yeah, having a person for him to explain things to and kind of coach it really serves the story. You kind of wish it was somebody else, but you get what you get.
I mean, yes, but it's kind of like, how do you get somebody who's not like and yeah, I understand. It does not have to be a Playboy Playmate, doesn't have to be a stripper, but it's kind of like that. Who else do you get on board? And also we have to think it's a Navy vessel decommissioned. Yes, but it's a Navy vessel in the early 1990s, and it's not the most unrealistic thing. And it's like, who are we going to get who they're not really going to be concerned about? Like the bad guys are not going to be concerned about what happens to her. They're just going to stick her in a cake and put her to sleep. And
yeah,
although he way underdoses her,
right. I mean, I have a feeling that he attempted to dose her enough that she's knocked out the whole time, but such was not the case.
You'd think Gary Busey would know more when it came to drugs like that. But.
Yeah, so the whole sequence before leading up to the takeover is at the surprise party for the captain, who is not yet at the party. You have Tommy Lee Jones and his band playing some blues music, and he's wailing on the harmonica while some other dude is singing. And you have Gary Busey come out in drag, which is like, it's truly bizarre. He's also, and it's funny because like some people are just like, oh, maybe Commander's got a sense of humor after all, you know? And he almost immediately goes to the captain. So like he goes through all of that just for this one, like, walk through the crowd.
He does that. I guess it's to disarm everyone and get everyone just distracted. But with the scene when he goes to get the captain and bring him down, it's so, not because, you know, he's in drag, but just the way it's shot and the way Busey looks, it's so creepy.
It's very creepy.
And he's like, I'm your date.
It's very creepy. Yeah, Busey leans in hard to the fact that he's wearing women's clothing.
Feels good walking around these pantyhose. It's okay, Sergeant. I'm here to escort the captain to the party.
Aye, Commander. Commander Krill, Captain?
Yes, send him in.
Krill? I'm your date tonight, Captain.
So he kills the captain, and I love it when Tommy Lee Jones is just like, hey, who's like trying to just like, it's almost like crowd work, and he's like, who's the highest ranking officer here? And this one guy stands up and then he shoots him in the head, and you just know like, oh shit, it is on. And that's what I love about Tommy Lee Jones in this movie, is that every moment makes a lot of sense. Every move that he makes really works. And big fan. The
movie wouldn't, and there's a lot to this movie that sets it apart from the other Seagal movies, aside from Tommy Lee Jones. But when I think about this movie, and when I think about like why this is the one Steven Seagal movie that I will go back, it's the only one I own. It's the only one that I really enjoy watching or have enjoyed. I feel like I enjoyed Out for Justice when that came out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But like none of the other ones I'm even like that entertained by. And yet this one, I think the setting, like I as I was reading through some reviews, Roger Ebert commented, Siskel and Ebert both liked it. It's not quite why they love movies, but Siskel or Ebert said that even though they filmed it on the Alabama, because the Navy wouldn't let them use the Missouri, and the Alabama was just like junked up in some, like it was just like sitting there in some bay and like off the coast of Alabama, I guess. And so they shot a lot of it like that, like not, it wasn't out at sea. Right. And Ebert was like, you could have fooled me.
Yeah.
That's Steven Seagal, of course, in Under Siege. And to date, approximately 6 million people have already seen this film. And I'm sure that makes 6 million satisfied customers, because Under Siege is simply wonderful, an exciting and funny and totally energized action picture with a pair of terrific villains and a very funny hero. Seagal, of course, is the hero, a Navy cook who knows more than just how to stir up good grub. He finds himself on a nuclear warhead-loaded battleship in the Pacific that is suddenly under attack from an American-led terrorist group. Tommy Lee Jones is the bad guy in charge, a disaffected CIA agent.
You really think blowing up a bunch of innocent people is going to change anything? Who made you flip like this?
I got tired of coming up with last-minute desperate solutions to impossible problems created by other people.
Jones has either killed or locked up everybody on the ship except ex-Navy SEAL Seagal and a Playboy playmate, Erica Eleniak, who has been brought on board for a party.
Tell you what, I'll carry everything. You kill whoever we run into, all right?
I have a little rule about killing people. Well, actually, I have 2 rules. See, 1, I don't date musicians, and 2, I do not kill people, okay?
Under Siege is a lot of fun. I've been recommending it to men and women alike, stressing it for women, as a matter of fact. There's such a joy to the filmmaking and the performances that it doesn't seem all that violent. Tommy Lee Jones, as always, is a credible villain, and Steven Seagal seems more human than ever before. Obviously, I strongly recommend Under Siege. It's one of the best times you're going to have at a movie this year. It was one of mine.
And I completely agree with you. And when I saw the trailer for this movie, I thought, here we go, Die Hard goes to sea. I thought I could predict the whole movie, and in a way, I could predict the whole movie, but it was really fun because of the performances.
Yeah.
And I think you ought to mention the director, Andrew Davis, because this guy is unsung.
Yes.
And he made Code of Silence, which is the best Chuck Norris picture. He made Above the Law, Seagal's first film. He made The Package with Gene Hackman. He is an extremely efficient action director who here takes a situation that looks completely predictable.
Yeah.
And as you say, he has a lot of fun with it.
Well, it is mounted very well. And when that movie term means it's big scale.
Yeah.
The shots, what I'm really impressed with is Andrew Davis and his editor. They lay the shots in just when you need them. You're saying, hey, wait a minute, what's happening down at the other end of the ship? And bang, if he isn't there with that shot and picking up that action. The fun of this, we have great casting. We've been Tommy Lee Jones fans for years.
Well, Tommy Lee Jones is a terrific villain here. The surprise is Erica Eleniak as the Playboy playmate, because it's the kind of character in an action picture that is completely extraneous.
Right.
Here you have all these guys shooting each other, and introduce Miss July of 1989, who has nothing to do with anything and knows it. And she just follows him around, and she's going to hide behind him, and then she learns in the course of an hour or two how to be capable and strong, and it's a terrific change there.
And you can see that this actress is actually playing a part. This isn't a documentary. She's very funny. She knows. It is. She uses the kind of valley speak a little bit that you might expect. It's a wonderful film. Really great fun.
So the production value is great. And of course, you got Andrew Davis.
And it was nominated, I think, for 2 Academy Awards for sound editing and probably sound mixing. But, you know, understandable. It's definitely got high production value.
It's high quality. And
it's a lot of fun.
Steven Seagal works in this role. Oh, there's one other movie that Steven Seagal is in that I used to enjoy watching, not anymore. Executive Decision.
I knew you were going to say Executive Decision. What is it about it that you don't enjoy anymore?
Oh, I think it's a little broad with the, extremism, like the It's a little Islamophobic, and in hindsight,
I was trying to remember who was the villain in that one. It's been a while.
Islamic extremist terrorist.
Generic. Okay.
The actor's name is actually on the tip of my tongue. The guy who plays like the leader of them. But it's a movie that I always enjoyed. Kurt Russell is in it, and Steven Seagal has the surprising like early death. Spoiler alert.
Right.
About 20 minutes in.
Yeah, I think that's probably his technically biggest movie, maybe the one that made the most money, but he dies like right away.
And it's great. It's like, great. Thanks, Steven Seagal. You showed up. You did what you needed to do. We're good. Kurt Russell's got it from here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cast list. David Suchet is...
that's... Yes. Yeah. He's the leader, the lead.
But a very strong cast otherwise. Halle Berry, John Leguizamo, Oliver Platt, B.D. Wong. I want to talk a little bit about Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. Dan, did you have a chance to watch it?
Sadly, I was not able to watch it. As I told John, dealt with a credit card theft, and it's all good. It's all okay. But switched some numbers around. So when I went to go rent, I couldn't do it. Couldn't make it happen at the moment, and have not had a chance, and didn't see it back in the day when it came out.
Yeah.
25 years ago.
While we're on a similar subject, I do want to mention that, Dan and we don't have any sponsors on this podcast. We don't have any Patreons or anything like that. But if you do want to help us out with, so we can rent Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, we just launched a merch store on tpublic.com. Dan, you're laughing, but...
Well, I'm laughing because, yes, please, but I don't want to... I am not crying poverty here. I'm just crying I don't have the right number, and I don't feel like going through the steps it takes to get it at the moment.
But, it's worth saying, but sometimes we do have to rent shitty movies just to complete a series. What's up?
But what I will say is that by contributing to, getting a piece of the action there. Now that I'm fully functional again, able to shop online, I'm sure I'll be hitting up the merch shop there, trepublic.com. TeePublic.
I think Tea Republic is a tea company.
Yeah.
Like drinking tea, not t-shirt.
TeePublic.
TeePublic.com. Yeah, just search for Ruined Childhoods and you will find us there. We've only got a couple designs up right now, but I'm going to be putting up some more soon. But check it out. It's fun.
But, John, you were about to talk about Under Siege 2, and then we were starting to talk about financial woes and shopping and 'tis the season and all, but please take us into some dark territory.
On his way from Denver to Los Angeles to pay tribute to his deceased brother, Ryback and his niece Sarah board a train, anticipating a quiet ride to La La Land. What they don't know is that the US military had recently launched a satellite into space with the power to destroy a city in mere minutes. On board the train are also two of the military scientists who designed the satellite, hoping for an hours-long romantic tryst. Shortly after entering the Rocky Mountains, the train is hijacked by a group of mercenaries led by Travis Dane, the main architect of the satellite who faked his death in order to be completely off the government's radar. After getting the codes from the two scientists on board, he's able to load a state-of-the-art CD-ROM and take control, holding the passengers of the train and also the entire world hostage in order to get a $1 billion payday into his Swiss bank account. Along with Dane is Marcus Penn, a real son of a bitch tough guy, who is there to make sure that nobody messes with Dane during the takeover. Meanwhile, Ryback is in the kitchen, working with the cooks to make a cake for his niece. Whatever. When he catches wind of what's going on, he wriggles his way through the outside of the train cars and finds his way into the baggage car, where he meets the train's porter, who assists Ryback along the way. Together, they manage to eliminate the bulk of the mercenaries and really screw up Dane's plans. Ryback engages in another close-quarters knife fight with Penn, which he naturally wins. And after detaching the train cars containing the hostage passengers, Ryback, Sarah, and the porter hijack the bad guy's getaway helicopter as the train crashes. But Dane manages to wriggle his way up the chopper's rope ladder, off of which he is sent flying into a fiery pit of doom. So, Travis Dane is played by Eric Bogosian, who a lot of people would know more recently from Uncut Gems, and the memes of Eric Bogosian sitting all sweaty in between the two doors. Everett McGill, who was Big Ed on Twin Peaks, is Marcus Penn, and he's a really great heavy. Katherine Heigl is the niece, Sarah, and then we have Morris Chestnut as Bobby, the porter. And the only other note, and then the major general at the government headquarters is Kurtwood Smith. And then we've got Jonathan Banks, one of the mercenaries who's responsible for actually hijacking the train. And of course, he is Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad. We got a real Breaking Bad thing going on with Under Siege. So, Dan, I gotta say, Eric Bogosian is awesome. He's a great bad guy. He's very, just wired up and crazy and fast talking and clever, and really, really sells it.
Bonjour, guys.
Who the hell is that?
Jesus Christ. I'm not quite General Cooper, although I have sort of risen from the dead. No, it's just your old friend, Travis Dane. You remember, the guy you fired.
And I bet just about now you're probably asking yourselves, what the hell did we just shoot down?
The answer is the NSA's best and only functional real-time down-looking satellite, the NSP-1. Not a bad piece of hardware. You'd probably be calling them any minute now and asking them for its use. Unfortunately, since even they don't know where the fuck it is, they're not going to be much help.
Have you got him? Have you got him?
But
I'm closing in.
You roughly know where the last transmission came from, so you're probably closing in pretty fast on Grazier 1's probable location. Yup, it's in there somewhere, hiding among those 50 ghost satellites I've created just for you. Grazier 1 is viable and can produce results, reproducible results. And to prove it, I'm going to be kind enough to give you another demonstration of my masterpiece. In 45 minutes, as soon as Grazier 1's in position for a clear shot, I'm going to hit the Pentagon with a 98% blast. More than enough to fracture the nuclear reactor you say you don't have under there. We'll have fallout. We'll have devastation. And I've got things to do. Oh, I want you to remember something. I was smarter than all of you before I worked there. I was smarter than all of you while I worked there. And I'm still smarter than all of you. Au revoir.
And, Katherine Heigl's fine. Morris Chestnut's great. He kind of replaces the Jordan Tate character, the kind of helper who he explains things to. And I think it's way more effective for it to be, Morris Chestnut. And Dan, I gotta say, it's great. Under Siege 2 Dark Territory is fucking great. It is Banana Town, but it is really, really enjoyable. Like, if you just took the plot, which it is what it is, you could remake this movie today and just update it a little bit, and it'd be just fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounded similar to like a Live Free or Die Hard, or at least like the Travis Dane sounded, it kind of sounded like a similar, not the same, but akin to the Timothy Olyphant role.
Yeah, I feel like we were trying to find his name a couple episodes ago, and
Thomas Gabriel,
right?
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Under Siege 2 Dark Territory is fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
and
I was bummed that I didn't get to watch it.
You should totally check it out.
It's
really fun.
It's I know, and I've also been a bit busy recently. Those who are listeners of the show, long time listeners, well, long time being like last year, might remember that I do some theater directing at the high school where I teach, and due to the restrictions, the COVID restrictions, we're not in the building, but we are working on a show, the internet and whatever else we can do. So I've been a little crazy with that. I'm just reading some trivia here about Under Siege 2.
Go on.
And I'm just going to read this because it's fantastic. The casting director drew the ire of Steven Seagal after the action star returned from a vacation in Indonesia and discovered that Gary Busey had been hired to play the villain.
Yeah, I remember this. This is nuts.
So apparently like Gary Busey got a pay or play deal. So Gary Busey ended up getting paid $750,000 apparently out of Seagal's pocket, because they cast him and then had to fire him because he played a character that got killed in the first movie.
Right. And I want to say that there was allegedly, first of all, by the way, Dan, allegedly got killed.
Allegedly.
We don't know. He could have jumped off that submarine somehow. I don't know.
Yes.
So I think that there's something about the script for Under Siege 2 Dark Territory originally. No. If I'm good, this is all from memory, so please excuse me. But there was another movie that was written that was very similar to Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. And when this was being made, they took that script that was going around and they reworked it and made it Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, okay. I think I remembered hearing that at some point.
And by the way, we have to mention how both of these movies are Die Hard on a blank.
Well, yeah.
Die Hard on a battleship, Die Hard on a train. And that was certainly, when Die Hard had such huge success in 88.
Oh,
it was just part of the formula.
Oh, everything after that. I mean, Passenger 57, Speed, so on and so forth. The other thing that I was reading has to do the other thing that caught my eye here was that apparently Jenny McCarthy auditioned for the role of Seagal's niece, and Seagal told her to strip.
No, she
allegedly.
Wasn't. I don't think she was auditioning for the niece. I think she was auditioning for the bartender, who he kind of has like a flirtation with, but Yeah, I don't think that Jenny McCarthy was going for the role.
Yeah. No, sorry.
Kelly.
Wrong character.
Yeah. But Jenny
Kelly.
McCarthy. So what happened with Jenny McCarthy is there was a real casting couch situation where Steven Seagal told her to undress, and she said, "This part doesn't ask for nudity, doesn't call for nudity," and he says, "There's off-screen nudity." And she was basically just like, if you want to see me naked, get Playboy and fuck you, and left. And good on her. Good for her. She's
fuck her for being an anti-vaxxer, but
she's an anti-vaxxer, and fuck her for that.
Good for her for not stripping down for Steven Seagal.
She is one of, I think, dozens of women with the same story, a lot of whom have attempted to sue Seagal for sexual harassment, but the lawsuits, I think, were all dropped after, I think, some big settlement payments.
It's good to be a friend of Putin's.
And Michael Ovitz, apparently. This is, I think, pre-Putin. Yeah. Some of them, I don't know. Maybe some of them weren't.
From what I was reading, there was a pretty long run. Like
it's bad.
He's gotten away with this for a long time.
Real slimeball. Like,
yeah,
before we started recording, Dan and I were talking about certain actors being canceled, and it's like how Steven Seagal. I mean, I think that he's just been such a joke to so many people that it's like, why bother? He's already been, canceled in so many people's minds already.
He's gone so far, like he's farther out than like a Mel Gibson.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Seagal is just, he's also just so.
And also he's got like,
he's not like influential. Like I just don't care.
And he's got, I think like 3 ex-wives, all of whom say awful things about him. Just
like that he was the worst Saturday Night Live host of all time.
Yeah, he was married to Lorne Michaels, believe it or not.
Lorne Michaels, after he finally hosted.
Lorne Michaels, who notoriously does not comment on the quality of any hosts, has explicitly said that Steven Seagal was the worst host that they've ever had, and
that's one
it's
bridge
bad.
That it's one bridge that it's okay to burn.
There's like one sketch that I saw that's on YouTube, and it is hard to watch. That should be a Steven Seagal movie because there are like 3 titles. Hard to watch. Steven Seagal in Hard to Watch. Yeah, so that was bad. But no, Dark Territory is great. Dark Territory is a, terminology about like untraceable, and because they're going through the Rockies. And what also plays a huge role in Dark Territory? The Apple Newton tablet. The like first tablet, and Seagal has one that he keeps like recipes and like tactics on.
And moves.
Like,
right?
Oh my God.
He's got 2 tabs, recipes, tactics.
I'm not even kidding. Like he's got like a notepad, and there's like a drop down menu, and one of them says tactics, and then one of them is recipes. And basically what he uses it for is he hooks it up to like the train's comm system, and he sends a fax to the restaurant that he owns, the Mile High Cafe or something in Denver. And he faxes it to them. And the chef who works there, Dan, I know I can make this comparison to you because you will get it, but he is essentially Chef Brockett, Mr. Rogers.
So
Mr. Rogers has this chef friend, Chef Brockett, who reminds me of Spinner in Death to Smoochie, where it's like the guy who's like got something going on, upstairs, but they're just like such good friends that he like gives him a role. That's Chef Brockett on Mr. Rogers.
Brad, how are you?
I brought it. It's over there.
Oh, good, but look.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Half-gallon, old-fashioned,
right.
roll.
I'm gonna have my own soda fountain right here in the bakery. Yeah. Well, it's only started. There's lots of work to do, and the painters are only getting started now. There's lots. Let's go in the bakery. Yeah.
The guy is deranged, and he looks and sounds crazy, and this guy who works at the Mile High Cafe is totally Chef Brockett. Dan, you just need to like look up clips and you'll of the two characters. Yeah, and it's so good. So
I want to watch the movie.
He gets the facts and he sees it and he's like,
what the hell? This isn't a produce list. This is... Oh my God.
like his delivery is terrible. And he calls the Pentagon?
Sir. Yeah. Cook has a message for you. A cook? Yes, sir. He says he has a code 3 message.
I patch him through on the audio.
Sure, a Joint Chief of Staff Bates there, please.
This is Admiral Bates speaking.
Sir, I have a fax message for you. It reads, Admiral, a force of armed men, probably numbering above 20, has taken over the Grand Continental passenger train traveling from Denver to L.A. Key signature equipment of high bandwidth satellite transmission equipment has been loaded on board.
It's Dane.
Aggressors appear to be professional and
Give
fully
me the
armed.
exact location of the Grand Continental. Yes, sir. Who sent the message?
It's Casey Ryback, sir.
Casey Ryback? Casey Ryback's on this train? What the hell's he doing on this train? Leave it to Casey.
They are in the Pentagon. And he's just like some chef at a restaurant in Denver.
Well, you don't think that Steven Seagal's restaurant would have a direct line to the Pentagon?
Well, what's also
Casey
funny,
Ryback's
yeah,
restaurant?
what's also funny is some like when the Pentagon people find out that Casey Ryback is on the train, they're just like, Casey Ryback. They all know who he is. I mean, I guess after Under Siege 1, the word got around.
Well, even in the first one, like half the table knew who he was.
Yeah. Right. And in the first Under Siege, there's like the war room that's going on and there's all the military officials sitting around like phones. And one guy picks up the phone. The back of the phone is filled with empty ports. That phone is not hooked up to anything. And they aren't even trying to make it seem like it. Anyway.
No, but they can make that docked ship look like it's out at sea.
Hey,
and that's amazing.
Great. It looked great. So anyway, Dark Territory's bananas. I loved it. It was great.
I want to, you know what? I came into this wanting to kind of apologize to everybody for not having, had a chance to watch it and not doing my work. But now I'm really just apologizing to myself because like I clearly should have made the time and I will.
Yeah. So, Dan, what could you potentially see happening with the Under Siege franchise? Which, by the way, Seagal has said that there is a third in the works, but that's complete bullshit because he's Steven Seagal, and I don't believe anything he says.
I think the last thing that was posted on it was like from 5 years ago.
Which is still, way too recent for Steven Seagal to be putting out a good movie.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. So as I was thinking about it and I was trying to think of like, the current climate and like, what do you do? And, maybe you could remake it, but rather than setting it contemporarily, actually set it prior to, just do a remake that's set in like the 60s or something. But no, that's not the way I'm going with this. And when it comes down to it, I think there's only one way to kind of revive the plot and the characters of Under Siege and perhaps even Under Siege 2. And that would be in a MacGruber movie sequel.
Oh.
I see no other way to do it other than just MacGruber is... He's a chef on a ship and like I don't think it should be called anything having to do with Under Siege, but it should just be one of those where like you're watching it and a few minutes in you're like, are they doing Under Siege?
Well, also there's a total MacGyver moment in the first Under Siege where he's like putting a bomb together with like a condom in a dream. Like he does something that just like doesn't make any sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so, I feel like it suits it so nicely. It sets up a plot for a MacGruber sequel, which as MacGruber has become so much more of a cult hit over the last 10 years.
Well, MacGruber is coming back as a Peacock original series.
Yeah, but is that going to, my question on that is it going to be able to go the distance the way that the original movie did? And I feel like
on a streaming service. I don't know if the rules are any different.
I don't know, but I would still like to see a MacGruber undersea, and like it could even like, because you don't have to exactly do the whole movie. You could do it where like the first half of it is they're on the ship and then he gets off the ship and then they just decide to, like, he's like, oh man, I just want to get away from it all and take a train ride across the country.
Oh, yeah. So by the way, the reason why he's on a train in the second one is because his brother died in a plane crash. And so they are traveling by train because airplanes, no thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the reasoning for that. I love where your mind is, Dan, but I gotta say, I want to see a Dark Territory remake. I think that Dark Territory is a much more fun plot line, and like I feel like early 90s there was much more support for the military around the time of the Gulf War.
After the Gulf War, absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's a great setup for that movie. With, like,
so it
Bush
made
coming
a
on
lot
board.
of sense in the early 90s to have this Battleship movie, not the movie Battleship, which I also love, but not a movie that takes place on a battleship nowadays. It doesn't really work. It's not as universal.
I think another thing, like to your point about about remaking Dark Territory, is I think about movies from like 1995 that are about like the new technology, which was really like the embryonic form of fetal form of the technology we have now.
Right. And like GoldenEye did like a very similar thing.
GoldenEye, the Net was another one that was like the mysterious, like take this like mini disc and
sure. Oh yeah, it was the same with this in the CD-ROM that he had. Like it was
exactly the high tech CD-ROM,
the Apple Newton. Yeah. So I think that if you redid Dark Territory without focusing so much on the tech aspect of it, the space tech aspect, I think works even better because you do have a lot more like weird stuff going on in space, especially with like SpaceX and Elon Musk. You have
Space Force. And the real Space Force, not the real
Space Force.
Because it's a thing.
Yeah. We'll see how much longer that'll be a thing. And also we have, and it just kind of is a universal thing, but there have only been a few movies in the past 10, 15 years that kind of evoke this same action movie vibe. Like the 90s action movies definitely had a feeling to them. And I feel like past 10, 15 years, you've got movies like Skyscraper that have a very similar feeling to them. Maybe like Geostorm.
Disaster movies.
Right. There's a lot more disaster. I also liken this one to like White House Down, which I prefer to the Olympus Has Fallen series of movies.
Oh, definitely.
White House Down with Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx is so freaking enjoyable. I love it.
That's a fun movie.
Jimmy Simpson,
saw that.
It's so good.
I'll take it back because I saw that at the drive-in back before it was a necessity.
Yeah.
In Warwick, New York. I think we saw that as a double feature with The Heat.
Oh, that's fun.
And I remember.
I feel like White House Down was, the same like vibe as like it felt like a 90s action movie. It's Die Hard in the White House. It's a guy who isn't really supposed to be there.
Well, yeah, that's also the past 4 years.
Anyway.
Yeah. Ooh, okay,
then. But I feel like I would actually really enjoy a remake of Dark Territory with like, I don't know, maybe directed by Roland Emmerich. I think that he is so much fun. I'm pretty sure he did White House Down.
Did he do White? Oh yeah,
I think he did do White House Down.
Yeah.
I was reading up on him recently. And, you think about Roland Emmerich and you think about some of his like crazy disaster movies. And I think that in my mind, he was more of one of those like ultra patriot type people, but he's actually like, he has a collection of like really bizarre art. I need to like look it up really quickly.
I feel like he almost parodies it.
Roland Emmerich
and then
art
the
collection.
day after, I mean, the day after tomorrow was so, dare I say, like ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Roland Emmerich also made a movie about Shakespeare called Anonymous that I never saw, but I always was interested in.
So Roland Emmerich, huge campaigner for the LGBT community and is openly gay, which you would not expect from just like watching his movies. So his art collection includes a painting of Jesus Christ wearing a Catherine Hamnett style t-shirt during his crucifixion, prints of Allison Jackson's works of a Princess Diana lookalike making obscene gestures and engaging in sex acts, a wax sculpture of John Paul II laughing as he reads his own obituary, and a photoshopped image of Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in a homoerotic pose. I mean, I kind of love him. He sounds great.
He sounds awesome.
I know. I want to hang out with him.
He does sound great.
So,
and I mean,
I would love it if
I'm
he
a
did.
fan of Independence Day. Sure.
Independence Day is amazing.
2012 was
2012 was good.
Was kind of fun. Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah. I think that he would be the perfect person to do an Under Siege movie, or if you just made Dark Territory its own movie and remade it.
It would be great if they remade it as Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, but just had nothing.
Well, here's the thing. Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, you don't need to see the first one to get anything. You know, you meet Casey Ryback and he's clearly a guy with a fascinating past who's like well known, and there's nothing about it that you would need to see the first one for. I think it stands alone as its own better second movie. It clearly had a smaller budget. The CGI was very sub 1995. I feel like it definitely has gotten way better since then. Like even people who make homemade cell phone movies do better graphics than Dark Territory did.
It's a 25-year jump in technology. Yeah,
and I don't know who I would want to cast as Ryback, but I'll tell you what, I want Eric Bogosian to reprise his role as Travis Dane.
I have no problem. Eric Bogosian is also a renowned playwright.
That's right. What did he write?
Talk Radio is the one. Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll was like his one-man show, but Talk Radio was a play of his, and it was also adapted into, I think Oliver Stone directed it in 1988, where Eric Bogosian, Ellen Greene, Alec Baldwin. But Talk
Bogosian
Radio
is great. He's great.
Talk Radio also interesting in the kind of shadow of our discussion of Fisher King with Jack Lucas. Talk Radio, kind of a similar character. But yeah, Bogosian's great. Who would be a good? What about Michelle Rodriguez?
Emrod, yeah, she's great. I could totally see her.
She kicks ass, and I would like to see her as the hero.
You know who I was actually thinking that I would really like? I would love to see Emily Blunt because she's so good in Edge of Tomorrow. I think that, you know, we haven't seen enough of her doing action.
Well, there's Edge of Tomorrow. Was Sicario?
I would not consider that so much action.
No, I don't. Yeah, but no, Emily Blunt would be fine. Yeah, she'd be great. Why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so I think that there's definitely potential for just Dark Territory to be remade.
I mean, if you're just making it Dark Territory free of Under Siege, you're really free to, not even call the character Ryback.
You know what? Also, fuck it, put Kurtwood Smith back in there. Same role.
Oh, absolutely. and interesting footnote here, but because I have to bring in the, my professional wrestling expertise, is that there was a wrestler who was named for the character Casey Ryback. He just was called Ryback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not there anymore. But it was so interesting hearing people hearing the name Ryback, and I was like, Under Siege?
Yeah. So, Dan, anything else you want to talk about with Under Siege?
Just
Steven
that there's
Seagal?
there's an interesting chain. And also, did you notice, by the way, so weird coincidence, because, the Fisher King opens using the song The Power by Snap.
Right. Also in
Under Siege features the same song.
You know, I was watching it with Laura, my wife, who of course was like, I'm going to go to bed early, and then sits down and watches all of Under Siege. And it's just like, I can't believe I just got sucked into this, but it's so good. I mentioned that to her when that song came on. And the same thing happened when I put Under Siege 2 on. She sat down and she's like, I'm not going to get sucked into this. Watched it till the very end and loved it.
Nice. But yeah, so there's that, and there's also this weird chain. You know, we talked about JFK, but we didn't really talk about the third part in the chain, because it's JFK, Under Siege, and The Fugitive, which was Andrew Davis's next film, was an Academy Award nominee the next year, and it shares, I think, the same producers. A lot of the cast, like the guy who's guarding Ryback when he's in like the meat locker.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the guy. That's like the rookie on Tommy Lee Jones's team in The Fugitive. The guy who
rookie.
Always playing the rook. And yeah, there's some other people who show up in, but like the guy with the mustache who's he's like trapped in the room that's flooding. And he's kind of like the guy in charge. He always has a Chicago accent and everything, like heavy Chicago accent. But he's in The Fugitive. Even and then there was like some of the music that was even like the music in JFK. There was like the.
Okay.
Like they were doing that in Under Siege, and it's just an odd. To me, it's just an odd connection, an odd chain of movies from, like, you know, Oliver Stone's epic docudrama about the Kennedy assassination.
Well, you know, I was just curious to see if Pamela Basker, who was the casting director for Under Siege, I wanted to see if she also was the casting director for The Fugitive, but she was not.
No, I think there's Andrew Davis has.
It could have been, yeah. You know, a lot of times when I see the same chunks of people showing up in the same things, I wonder, like, did they was the same casting director? Was it maybe they have the same agent or in the same agency, and, you know, sending people out for the same projects and things like that? But yeah, it's probably
a lot
Andrew
of
Davis.
times.
You're right.
It's like, yeah, no, you know, I mean, that's like how, you know, Josh Malina pops up in a lot of Aaron Sorkin projects because you know they're old friends. I think used to be roommates.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so that's you know, aside from you know, being a good actor.
Yeah, sure.
Josh Malina.
Well, or else he wouldn't be cast in the things.
No, true.
So,
yeah, but
Dan, I loved talking about Under Siege.
It's great. And I should point out, the last time I watched Under Siege before this time was with you.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So, and now we've completed the circle. We've talked about it.
Now we never have to watch it again. Look at that.
We didn't talk about it then. We just watched it and said, someday we'll come back to this.
Yeah. I don't know how or when, but someday.
Or who's going to be listening.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about our next episode?
Well, so as you said earlier, we're going through the 90s year by year and kind of choosing a movie for each year. So our 1993 pick is the Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, and Margaret Burgess, Meredith, Kevin Pollak, Daryl Hannah comedy Grumpy Old Men. And of course, we'll also be talking about Grumpy-er Old Men.
Sure. And we're probably going to tie it back to Fargo because we've got the Gustafsons in the Grumpy Old Men movies. So, follow us on Twitter, ruined_pod, Instagram at ruinedchildhoodspod. Email us your thoughts, ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Check us out on TeePublic and buy some merch. We got some fun stuff.
Yeah, and hey, if you get a t-shirt, a mug, a mask, a sticker,
send us a picture.
Exactly. Thank you.
Send us a picture.
And on that note.
Yeah, Dan, as you enter dark territory, you have a good journey.
All right, good journey.